When he received a call from the police, he knew that there was no point scolding already because he said he saw my eyes and my eyes were no longer the same. When my dad came over to fetch me from IMH, I thought he was going to scold me. But he never said anything. He just sat with me and I asked him, can I just lie on your shoulder?
Welcome to another episode of Men Explain, where Avery and I usually have a lot of unhinged thoughts and we give our true and honest opinions. Today, we're going to take a little bit of a different direction, but a very important one as well. Now, as you know, mental struggles present very differently with different people, right?
Yes.
And we all deal with it in various ways.
Based on provisional data, 314 suicides were reported in Singapore in 2024. 64.3% were men, while the remaining 35.7% were women. So today, we're going to be unpacking that and how it affects how we recognize it in our day-to-day lives as well. And we've got two people here with us who are going to be joining us to talk about this, and they're very special people indeed. Kicking it off with Dr. Jared Ng. You are a mental health professional and a psychiatrist you're going to help us understand this from a more clinical perspective as well. And we have Lisa here, who is somebody who has lived experience and is very happy to be here and share her story with us today. So thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
So could you guys give us a little bit of a background on yourself? So Dr. Jared, let's start with you.
Yeah, so my name is Jared. I'm a psychiatrist in private practice. But prior to starting my own clinic, I worked in the public sector for almost 20 years. I was running the Department of Emergency and Crisis Care at the Institute of Mental Health, and I also oversaw the children's ward at the same hospital. So I see children, young adults, families. I work with workplaces and schools because, mental health doesn't exist in isolation. It involves everybody. So we work with everyone.
Hi, I'm Lisa. I'm a family and mental health content creator. So I started off my content through fitness at first, and then I shared my mental health journey with my dad. And then I was thinking, I'm not the only one suffering. Like you mentioned, it will spread across our families and the people around us. So when I started to share with my dad, then we explored family content to show our bond together, to show that it is possible to heal together.
I love that because every time I have conversations with people or like on a public platform, and sometimes this question is posed, right? They'll sometimes ask, what do you think is the most important support for you, like as a public figure or like when you have challenges and all that? And I always say it comes down to your support system, like the people closest to you. I'm super close to my mom and dad, to a very close inner circle of friends. And I feel like they are the ones that really ground you and keep you in check throughout any season of your life. So I can really relate with that.
So let's start it off with coping with your emotions, stress, and struggles. Are there any real differences in how men and women cope with their struggles?
We have to remember that it's patterns, it's not rules. There is really a lot of overlap. It's like, for example, men, when they're depressed, they tend to be more irritable, more angry. They may be more numb to certain things, to emotions, and they may withdraw socially. Whereas women, they may be more tearful, they show their emotions, more likely to talk to other people about it. So there is really quite distinct differences. And this does affect when the condition is picked up. Like for women who might be more willing to share about their problems, seek help early, they can pick up earlier. Where men tend not to talk about their feelings, so they hold a lot of distress, and that manifests much later when things really don't go so well or when it's in a crisis.
The interesting thing is that Avery is a bit of a new age guy. The moment he has a problem, he'll call me. So I just want to say, I think this is really not gender specific, because whatever I experienced, you could have experienced, and so on and so forth, right?
Well, okay, I'll pose this question first, right? I want to know, how do you define depression? What does that actually entail? Like, what does depression actually look like in a man, in a woman?
So we do have to differentiate the difference between depression and sadness. Sadness is an emotion, a feeling, whereas depression is a mental health condition, a medical condition, which have certain diagnostic criteria to be met. For example, low mood for more than 2 weeks, nearly every day, and accompanied by symptoms such as loss of appetite, sleep problem, energy level problem, or even thoughts of life as meaningless, suicidal thoughts. So when we talk about someone being depressed, we're referring to a medical condition. Whereas sadness is a universal emotion. All of us will have experienced sadness at some point in our life or another.
It does sound kind of difficult to differentiate sometimes, like even as a person going through those feelings. I mean, I'm just going to post this next one to Lisa then. What was some of the telltale signs for you? And could you differentiate?
Actually, I couldn't differentiate because I
Right?
thought
It's
it was
tough.
a phase. When I started to have certain behavioral changes like attendance issues at school or hopelessness and stuff, I just thought that I can overcome it within a short period of time. So I didn't really know what to do until the teacher told me that there is an issue because my grades were so bad that I had to almost retain, and they had to tell my parents about it, and they had to recommend me to a psychiatrist. So I had to go to IMH to heal. I think sadness and depression is actually quite scary because, like, let's say I have a dust allergy. It is an external factor that caused me to sneeze. But depression is more of like a cold. It came from within. Like, you couldn't really tell. Yeah. So I didn't really know what to do back then. And then I kind of hated the world when I had to go to seek help because it is a shameful process at that time for me. I did not know how to look at it positively.
And I think just to add on to that, back in school, right, the word I'm depressed is like so loosely thrown around. Like people always go like, oh, I'm so depressed today. I'm like, to the point where I think we almost don't know how to understand what depression is, especially as a teenager, as a kid.
Maybe 3 things that I sometimes tell my patients as well as their family members what to look out for, right? All of us will be sad, all of us will be anxious.
Yeah.
So 3 things we look out for is the intensity of the symptoms. If it's overbearing, if let's say you're not eating, not sleeping for days, I think that's a problem. Duration of the symptoms is important. If you're feeling sad, for example, after a breakup, that's normal, understandable. But if you're sad 6 months later, still the same intensity is a problem. And the third one is how much impairment there is. If you are so sad that you can't go to school, you can't even get yourself out of bed, it doesn't matter, it is only 1 week or 2 weeks, right? It is really, really affecting your function. So that's when we think that it's a problem and it's time to seek professional help.
Right before we touched on this, Son said, I'm more of a new age person and I
You're
open
very
with my-
expressive with your
my
feelings,
emotions.
yeah.
But this didn't come like immediately. Son has known me for a while now. And for the earlier half of our friendship, I was the complete opposite.
Okay.
I was actually very closed off. Like, I did share, but it wasn't to the point like now where I would like call Sons and cry on the phone.
But you act out in different ways. I think sometimes our sadness or depression or feelings manifest in different ways, right? It's not just like not being able to get out of bed or crying, or it could be a lot of things like getting blackout drunk or going. I mean, look, I have been through that too, and so have you.
Yeah.
What are some ways that it could manifest, like in terms of behavior?
Yeah, so we look at 3 things really. It's about the behavior changes. It's about the changes of emotions and changes of thoughts, right? So maybe we start with changes of emotions first. You feel sad, you feel numb, you feel angry, you feel irritable. These are all symptoms of feelings changes. Then in terms of behavior change, you have some people who go into social withdrawal. They don't want to talk to others. There are some people who act out angry all the time, become very destructive. Some people will turn to alcohol, turn to drugs as well. And in terms of thinking changes, people who are depressed will be very negative. They have a lot of self-blame, self-guilt, and they may start to have thoughts that life is meaningless, life is hopeless. So these 3 domains we look at when we are talking about changes.
I experienced all those domains. The fact that you said everything
In order.
it kind of gave me goosebumps. Overall, when it comes to trying to heal for depression or dealing with it, the mistake that we do is we underestimate the bad coping mechanisms, what it can do to us. So I also depended a lot on alcohol, clubbed a lot, and that changed my environment as well. So it's not just my health, it's also my friendships. And after, when I was getting better, I realized that I cannot keep depending on anything external to help me heal.
Facts, yeah.
And it had to start from within.
I think when we get into that dark headspace, and when we rely on things like clubbing and alcohol as a coping mechanism or based on experience, I found that it's just a very vicious cycle because you feel euphoric when you're in that party setting. You're like, oh my God, everything's so great. And then the crash the next day is so bad. Doctor, can you please maybe explain a little bit about this? Because sometimes we have these feelings of euphoria and then you go like super depressive and then you repeat again because you're like, I need to go back to the thing that made me feel so happy.
And worst case, you up the dose.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I guess going to parties, going to be with your friends and doing something, I guess, irresponsible. I think it's a form of avoidance. You don't think about your problems. You're in an environment where you don't have to think about your problems. A lot of times alcohol is consumed, and actually chemically alcohol is a depressant.
Yes, exactly.
And it causes fragmented sleep, and alcohol amplifies emotion. So when people are sad and they drink, they get more sad. And then the next morning you wake up with a hangover.
And you feel even worse.
Yeah, the sleep is bad, it's totally fragmented, may have a lot more nightmares, and you feel even worse. And the only way to rectify it is the way you know how, by avoiding again. You go back to the clubs and drink.
Man, the number of times that I've decided to drink it and said, don't worry, if I drink this, I won't remember. You know what I mean? It's like, you just one more sip, it'll be better.
Amplifies it.
Exactly.
Actually, my health tracker reminds me constantly that my sleep is terrible after a night out. So sometimes I don't wear a health tracker to sleep. I'm avoiding it.
Avoidance,
I'm the avoidant. In those moments. For Lisa, do you feel like you ever pinpointed what was the root cause of all this, or what was the diagnosis? I'm so curious.
At first, all this was an accumulation of me comparing myself to others in terms of grades, and then toxic relationships. My self-worth depended on my exes.
You tie your self-worth to it.
It's really, it sounds really stupid, but that happened, right? So then I underestimated the bad coping mechanisms, and then I reached a level where I felt an emptiness that, like what you said, numb. Wow, that time I was really completely shocked because back in secondary school, I was athletic, social, butterfly, everything. And I completely changed. And even my friends say, oh, Lisa changed, no hope now. Yeah.
And back then also in school, there's little to not much education on mental health related issues.
I think there was. It's just that I was in denial. I don't have it. I don't have this problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there are so many instances where we want to open up to our loved ones. And for my case, the first thing, they're like, we give you everything, you said for what? Like, so ungrateful. Yeah, but actually that's a very normal response. Because if we do not understand ourselves, how do we expect others to understand us?
But it's also very Asian.
It
like
is.
We're always like, you better be grateful for what you have.
Yeah.
Like,
But in this instance, fast forward, my mom went to read up about depression on YouTube.
Yeah.
And my dad had a different method of helping me, which is he kept completely quiet. Because he don't know what to do, but he's like, what do you want to eat?
What can I do for you?
Yeah, just being there. At that point of time, I went into complete solitude mode. My friends texted me, they deliver some food, and I just cried, but I don't want to talk to anyone. Because I was just in shame, guilt, everything after the attempted suicide. Yeah.
So suicide is actually a very complex issue. It's really not just down to one cause. It's really an interaction of different risk factors and lack of protective factor, triggers, availability of means, and actually mental health is just one of them. Other risk factors would include things like unemployment, family stress, physical health problems, chronic pain. So there's many different risk factors that can come together.
Well, I would love to share a personal story as well, because I think, when it comes down to mental health issues and depression, it can come in any way, shape or form. And this was a long time ago. I was juggling school, so I was doing uni and work at the same time, trying to pursue this. And then when things started getting very real, I was like, oh my gosh, like I got to put in a lot of effort, right? And I have something similar and in common with you is the comparison thing.
Yeah.
So in an industry like this, we constantly, or rather I used to find myself in a very bad headspace where I'll compare myself to others and be like, oh, maybe how come I didn't get this? Or like, is it because they don't like me? And then what you said about tying your self-worth to your relationships, job. Like, it could be anything, right? So I got into a bad headspace, and then I developed a very bad case of insomnia. So insomnia kind of runs in my family a little bit. Obviously, we don't talk about it too much, in the past, being Asian family and all that. But I'm very grateful that my parents are open about it, because we all kind of confide in each other about things. So there was one point that I felt I really needed to seek help was when I didn't sleep for a whole week.
Oh my gosh.
Like, it was a whole entire week. Have you ever come across patients with bad... One whole week, okay? And it was at its peak when I actually had to do a staycation for a client-related job. So I thought, like, okay, finally I can relax. Maybe it's the environment. Maybe I've been too stressed. I've been putting too much pressure on myself for like work. And then my relationship wasn't going well at the time. I was like in my early 20s. I guess I didn't know how to deal with all this stuff that was going on. So then I went for this staycation it was like a alcohol-related brand, okay? And I brought a good friend along with me. I was like determined to have a very good time that weekend. Guess what? Both nights that I was in the hotel, I couldn't sleep at all. It was the worst feeling in the world. I don't know how to describe it to you, but insomnia, I wouldn't wish it upon anyone. You lie down and you stare at the ceiling. you're physically so drained and I just want to sleep, but I cannot sleep. And before you know it, the whole night has passed and the sun comes up. Like, that's just how I would describe it. Like, and I don't know where all the time went. Like, the whole night just disappears, and before I know it, it's like I have to wake up, but I didn't sleep a wink. It is the worst feeling in the world. So I finally went to see a psychiatrist, and he, of course, after much conversation with me and diagnosis, he gave me some medication to help, because you can't be resistant to that. I feel like sometimes you need the help. And my blood pressure was like sky high for someone that was in my early 20s, and he was very concerned. So he put me on like a couple days MC, and he was like, you really need to sleep like now, like immediately.
Were you able to after the medication?
I did. So I slowly, managed to get back on track and like stabilize myself and everything. It didn't help that also our job is a bit irregular in terms of hours. I wake up at 4+ in the morning, so I guess I didn't know how to like regulate. Yeah. So that's my experience. And sometimes it is the pressure that we put on ourselves.
Right.
Also, it is not always one particular event or something that I can pinpoint that caused. Maybe I did it to myself.
No, I think it's because we are like overachievers, and
Right.
also I had a
You
similar.
Capricorn, ah?
No, I'm Aquarius.
Okay, just checking.
I'm an asparagus.
When I started working, became a content creator, and I touched on mental health, I thought I had to be perfect.
Right, we always think we have to be
Like,
perfect.
I need to show, I can handle everything. Until my husband, Julian, he reminded me that it's all about the realness. What?
Yeah.
You're going to struggle at some point
The
of time.
authenticity, yeah.
Every year is going to be new challenges when you level up. So just share, just be transparent.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I think there's
Agree.
something that you said that was actually very interesting, because you said that, sometimes you have to just admit that you need the help.
yeah.
And a lot of men refuse to even seek help when it comes to this kind of thing, right? And I'm saying this from a personal experience, because I know a friend who was contemplating seeking help, and he just went, I don't need it, I'm fine.
Yeah. I mean, some of my friends share also that it's very hard to convince their partner, their husband or their boyfriend to go to like couples therapy. For example, even something as simple as sit down, just have a chat. They are a bit resistant.
Why do you think that is, Doctor?
Many different factors. Sometimes it's about misconceptions. Like some people would think that if I seek help, all my records will be available to the powers that be, and I can't get a job, I can't apply for this, I can't apply for that, affect my career prospect. So that's one misconception. Some misconception would then be it's really expensive, I can't afford. That's not true. We have a lot of different schemes in Singapore, both in public and private, that can help with mental health support. Sometimes it's really in denial. They don't want to accept that they have help. Going forward to see a psychiatrist, a psychologist, equals to, I admit I have a problem. And that can come to their mind tricks like, will people start thinking I'm weak? Will people start thinking I'm incompetent? Why can't I cope with this? How come my neighbor next door can cope with it, but I cannot? So then that comparison thing also comes in. So many different reasons why people don't seek help now.
I resonate with that the most, because that last example of I don't need to seek help, because if I seek help, then I'm admitting that I have a problem. For a lot of guys, myself included, it took me a very long time to admit that.
Accept that you need help.
that therapy is not. It's not making me look weak.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether or not it's the same for women. It took me a long time, and it was because only after like a few incidents that I realized that I'm in this hole. It was a hole that I could not dig myself out of.
Yeah.
And every night I would just be like, I don't want to be here. Like, I don't want to be in this space. I don't like where I'm at. And every time anybody asks, how are you? It's always just, I'm tired. It's always, I'm tired.
Because you're drained. You're
Yeah.
always drained.
So one of the ways that I decided to seek help was to actually start going for therapy. So I went for 7 months of therapy for quite a long time, because I was struggling with a girl. Right. And I always thought to myself, women won't be a big issue in my life. Like, I don't need to go for therapy for girls. Like, I'll be okay while I was in a hole. I will never forget this moment. I used to ride a motorcycle, and I was riding my bike, and I reached work, right? And I sat in the car park for a good 10 minutes, right? Just helmet on in tears, because I didn't know how to.
Process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it felt really weird. Like, speaking about it now kind of feels a bit heavy as well. But it took me a while to actually admit that, okay, I need to seek therapy for help, because a lot of times I was like, I don't need this, nothing's
I
gonna
just talk
help
to my
me.
friend, I'm fine.
I'll just
I
talk to
think
my
most people
friends.
think that
Yeah.
if they just offload to their friends, they'll be fine. Okay,
yeah.
so then as a friend,
Yeah.
how could I have better supported you
Yeah,
at
you
that
supported me
time?
great. Anytime I called Sons and I felt bad, I felt terrible, she would pick up the phone, right? And it would be like, let me fit you into my schedule. And if you don't know, Sonia's schedule is like insane. So she'll always be like, oh, this is time, I have time here. You know, do you need to talk to me? You can call me, you can voice note me. And I think that you've always been,
Oh, thank you.
you've always been there.
Recently, I gave a talk at a polytechnic, and I had, Slido, we asked this question.
Yeah.
I asked them, how many of you have a 3 a.m. friend? A 3 a.m. friend is someone you can call,
Yeah.
and at 3 a.m. they will pick up and they will talk to you. Maybe only about a quarter of them had. And I was worried, right?
Yeah.
I won't call Sonsa. She need to wake up in 2 hours.
Yeah.
A bit tough.
True, yeah. Call someone else. I'm kidding.
Yeah, so that's why having a good support network is really important for our mental health. Yeah.
Okay, so as a friend, I mean, I really appreciate If's, sharing that earlier. But as a friend, if we are not entirely sure how to deal with someone who maybe in our inner circle who's struggling with these issues, how can we encourage them to go and seek help?
Actually, this question comes up quite a lot. How do I help my friend, help my husband, my wife
Or
who
my
don't want to
partner?
seek help?
Yeah.
I think the most important rule is don't give up, really. You have to always be there for them and find out first what is the resistance. Why are they not seeking help? Approach it gently, see what they say. Maybe it's one of those misconceptions I said earlier. I had one case where we asked a mother, why don't you seek help now? Then she said that I cannot let my son think that I'm weak. So that was the reason, and the son was so surprised that was the mother's answer. So I think getting down to the root of why they are not seeking help is really, really crucial. If they don't want to say, it's okay. We still continue to be there with them. Sometimes I would tell some of my own friends that when you're ready, I will go with you to your session.
That's
I don't have to sit there with you, but
Just
maybe I'll go with
accompany.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll be here when you're ready to talk to somebody about it.
Oh, I like that.
And if you say that, you have to make sure you're ready.
Yes.
Yeah, it cannot be 3 weeks later they call you, can we talk?
You
And
don't
you
have
say,
to.
oh, I'm busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's some of these things. Consistency is important.
And actually, a call really saved me once because after the teacher spoke about it to my parents, I actually did not had a wake up call. I actually okay lah, since you all know, whatever. So I wanted to tell my teacher I don't want to bother with the IMH letter. Just retain me. Then she called me for 2 hours. Then she said, you got. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
No, you got a lot of potential ahead of you.
Yeah.
Even like I don't know, you are the last student in class or whatever. Because of the way I showed how much I wanted to just give up, right? Then she called for 2 hours.
Yeah.
She brought me back. I studied the last week and then I passed.
That's great.
So I was like, wow, that was a very scary moment because previously my parents had a bad reaction at first, right? But when my dad came over to fetch me from IMH, I thought he was going to scold me. But he never said anything. He just sat with me and I asked him, can I just lie on your shoulder? Yeah, then healing. I didn't expect to cry. It has been like so many years.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just talking about it.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing. It brings us back to the point where you said your relationship with your dad improved so much.
Yeah.
Can you touch on that a little bit? Like how he put you out in a way, because sometimes it's the moments that we least expect and a small gesture like that impacted you so much, right?
Yeah. For some context, because when I was younger, our relationship wasn't that strong. He was a very overprotective dad and I was a over-rebellious daughter.
I can understand.
Yeah. So I have 2 younger brothers and some of their memories of us were me and my dad shouting across at each other in public and in the house. And we did not know how to deal with that. So I think ever since I plunged into such a darkness, right? When he received a call from the police, he knew that there was no point scolding already because he said he saw my eyes and my eyes were no longer the same. So that's why he kept quiet. And I think it's like after 1 month of solitude, then I started to just keep running. And I had one single goal, which is to be role model for my brothers. Because as an elder sister, I think it will affect their perspective on family as well. And I don't want to traumatize them. Yeah. So I think because of that goal and my father just trying to talk to me about it, and then we started to share online and we realized that just these moments of talking to each other, even though we don't understand each other. For example, he said, why must you share this online? Then for me is, I want to help at least one person. Then he's like, why must you dig up the past?
It's a very parent, a very dad or parent thing to say.
But just give it some time if you all do not agree on things. Just don't be impatient. Like, why you don't understand me? Time will heal. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I'm very close. Sorry, I'm also like,
Sorry.
she was tearing up. I was tearing up. I mean, I'm super close to my parents. I can't imagine like a world without them. Oh my God, now it's my turn.
No,
What is happening? What is happening?
I didn't expect the cries. Yeah.
I also because I share everything with them. And I don't think that's very common with a lot of Asian families. I'm not sure if you would say the same, especially when you interact with a lot of people who may have problems with their families. And in our Asian culture, a lot of people don't actually open up to the people around us. And sometimes when Aves and I and the other DJs, we go for school visits, right? And some of the topics do include things loosely around mental health as well. So in our own way, we also try to encourage students to like open up to their families and teachers. But it's very challenging. Because if I put myself in a position of like a 13-year-old, the last person I want to share with is my parents.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
How do you then deal with that as a professional? Like, you know, if a person comes to you and doesn't seem to know how to communicate with their loved ones and the close people, how do you encourage them to take that step?
I think we have to find out what is the reason for the resistance. A lot of times, actually, when I talk to the child, teenager, and I talk to the parents, actually both sides have got good intentions. But they just don't know how to communicate. And then sometimes we be the conduit, we facilitate that discussion. I had this boy who was quite depressed and he needed medication, but the mom was just insistent that no medication. I don't want my son to be on medicine. And it was really difficult. And the father was caught right in the middle. He wanted the best for the kid, but he also wanted the best for the wife. So in the end, I had a one-to-one session with the mother, and I found out that actually the mom lost her sibling years ago to depression. And she was in denial. She didn't want the son to go through the same thing as her brother did. So it was really difficult, and we had to do a lot of psychoeducation to her to get her to understand that actually we are all trying to help your boy, let him be the focus. And I think eventually that we had a good outcome. That was important. So finding out the reasons would be quite crucial. Sometimes the child may have certain misunderstanding. The mom just want to control me, dad just don't want to listen to me. But that may not be the case. So we try to find a medium. I have got some of my patients to write letters to their... I know nowadays people don't write letters, right? But they write a card to their parents. And I thought that was really quite helpful. And then the other way around as well. The parents write a card to the child and to really bring them onto the table to talk.
Just a bit of a sidetrack, right? Because in your professional career, you deal with so many different cases and a lot of people, well, just like us just sitting here crying in this seat right now. For me, I absorb energy very easily. You know, for you, this is like your career. How do you, I mean, forgive me for being too candid, but how do you deal with all the negative emotions that come through and then how do you release it after? I'm always so curious about this, like who counsels the counselor? Who's the therapy to the therapist, you know?
So I think at my seniority, we already know what kind of cases really affected us more. So we will have peer supervision. We have got structured sessions, sometimes with a peer, sometimes with our own supervisor in the past to talk about this. My wife's a psychologist, but we make sure we don't talk about cases at home.
Of course,
but she understands that sometimes I need my space to just play my Call of Duty. And,
you need to release the energy sometimes.
I've got dogs at home, and I think they really help me with my mental health. Although having said that, not too long ago I had to do an assessment of a person who tortured the animals. So that affected me. So that was a recent case that affected me emotionally. After the case, I was not in a good place.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I had to speak to my friends about that. So we identify what affects us. We practice self-care. We do something we enjoy. Whether is it Call of Duty or watching
anything.
Stranger Things, you know.
Great. That's I watch Stranger Things, not Call of Duty though. That's probably you.
Your fiance. So okay, we talked a lot about mental health and obviously checking in on other people, right? But this is going to be a little bit heavier to talk about. But there are still so many cases of suicide in Singapore, right? And with 2/3 being male, like what do you think about this?
Okay, so this phenomenon of there having more males who complete suicide is quite worldwide, except for some countries where it's more gender equal. But we do find that there's many reasons for this. One reason is really about the methods that they use tend to be more lethal. They're more aggressive, right? And the other reason is that many of them are not very forthcoming in terms of help seeking. So by the time that they are detected, it's a little bit too late. The crisis had already happened. So if you look at the statistics, actually, females are more likely to have suicidal thoughts and self-harm, but the number of completed suicide in males is higher.
And another interesting stat was that a lot of cases are people in their 30s. Why is that so? Is it a phase of life or?
So actually, every phase of life, when you're going through it, is hard. Everyone thinks
course,
that
there's
your
different
phase is hard.
challenges.
But if you think about it, in the 30s is when you start having your own family, you start trying to pursue your career. That's also the age where your parents are starting to get old, starting to get sick.
Okay,
So,
this is a touchy point for me. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
so
for sure.
you are sort of caught in that generation. And the things that we tend to give up are things like your rest, your hobbies, your friends, and those are healthy coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
And instead, people might turn to less healthy ones like alcohol, and then that sort of potentiates and worsens the problem. So the 30s is really quite a difficult period.
Very interesting, because you always think that it would be somewhere in your teenage years where people are rebelling and threatening to run away from home. Like that's the case, right? Sometimes. But yeah, we deal with a lot more adult problems now, I would say, right? In your 30s, a lot more serious problems.
Yeah, no, I feel like it's a completely different thing. Like once I hit past 27, past 20, 26, I feel the problems became real. Like everything.
Because you're adulting for
Yeah,
real.
like everything before that was like, I'm gonna not make it through school, or I'm gonna have this. But then as you grow older, you start realizing that there's a lot more to worry about.
Yeah.
And then you start stressing about, actual life situations. I think the stress there became a lot more prevalent. And then I don't know why, but then you're so much more aware of your emotions. You're so much more aware of how things affect you. And I think that made me a lot more, it hurt a lot more. Like everything hurt a lot more. I feel like it was amplified because I was more in tune with my emotions as I got older. I don't know whether it's the same for you guys.
Wait, now I'm scared because I'm 25.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God.
No, you'll be fine.
So wait,
Okay.
so 27 is the
No,
benchmark.
you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Songs and I are just
I was going to say that I have a very different view from Ace. Yeah. Like, I feel that as I went into my 30s, right, I became a lot more confident in myself.
Okay.
And a lot more stable, like in my stable era, I think in my 20s, I was a lot more chaotic in my mind. Like I was everywhere, all over the place, panicking, worrying about a lot of unnecessary things. And now, because I feel more secure in myself, and I think you now have the mental clarity to process more things than before. And for Lisa, I feel such a mature energy from you. I think because you've been through all that in your earlier years of life, that you're so emotionally mature now. Like the stuff that you were sharing with me, I thought you were in your 30s. I didn't think you were 25, to be honest, but that's not a bad thing, because you've been through enough to guide you to be in this better place in life right now.
Right.
And I feel that in my 30s.
Okay, so going back to this thing, because I would like to always say that I'm very appreciative of people like Sonia in my life, because they're always checking in, and I'm always doing the same as well, right? But is there an actual way that people should be following in a certain sense for them to be able to check in on people? Like what should they be looking out for?
I think the most important thing, first of all, is to be a genuine, kind human being. I think that's really the basis of it all. But sometimes the difficulty is that we don't know how to approach and we don't know what to do. So a very simple acronym to remember is CARE. I think the C stands for showing concern. I think you must be genuine and show concern. If you see your friend or your family member not coping very well, maybe gently ask them, hey, is everything okay? Is there something bothering you? I'm here if you want to talk. I think that's the basic, right? Then after that, you have to practice active listening. And actually, a lot of active listening is about controlling yourself. Don't speak up yet. Don't be so quick to say something. Just listen to them. Let them finish before you talk. And I think actually one of the important things which I share with my friends and my patients is that when you approach somebody, it will be quite helpful to ask them, are you looking for a listening ear, or are you looking for a problem solver? I think sometimes we mix up the two,
Right.
Yes.
and we are very quick. Again, gender stereotype. Men, right?
Want to
When
problem
my
solve.
wife tell me a problem, I want to solve your problem for you. I
gosh,
want to be the competent man.
I completely
Actually, it triggers
agree.
me.
It does. I'm like, I don't need a solution.
Like, why are you being so
I'm
logical?
gonna put my finger down now. Like, gonna.
I just need you to listen.
Because we are so irrational at that point.
Yes.
Yeah.
But men are generally problem solvers. They're trying to solve the issue.
Evolutionary, right?
Yeah,
That's how
okay.
it is.
All right.
So we have to overcome that and just listen. And then we need to really have effective response. And part of it is to find out whether they want a problem solved or they just want to talk about a problem, and you are just a listening ear. And finally, show empathy. I know we sometimes cannot fully understand what the other person is going through, but we can still listen. We can still try our best to be in their shoe. We don't have to understand fully or be immersed in their problems. So we need to also show empathy when we interact with others.
Well, I think the good thing as radio DJs, the basic skill is that you have to listen.
Really? I thought the basic skill was to talk.
No!
Have I been doing my job wrong this whole time?
Yes!
Oh.
No, it's an underrated thing.
Yeah.
And I think that through that, I use that in my life. Listening is so underrated, and you know, sometimes you're having a conversation with someone, but you're not absorbing what they're saying.
Yeah.
And that could also be something that we could improve on, like active listening.
And listening without judgment.
Yes.
I think that's really crucial.
So if let's say people are afraid to turn to their friends or turn to their loved ones, is there any way or anywhere that they can find support in Singapore?
So we have a national mental health hotline, the 1771, that people can call for queries that they have about mental health, resources, and things like that. The SOS, the Samaritans of Singapore, also have a suicide hotline, 1767, where if you are facing a crisis, an emotional crisis, mental health crisis, suicidal crisis, you could call 1767. They also have this service called CareText. If you don't want to use your voice, you could text.
And just to reassure people who are tuning in right now, who may be going through something, who can they expect on the other end of the line when they call through? A professional or somebody?
Yeah, they're all trained. Yeah, they're listening ears, but they are trained listening ears.
Okay, 24/7, 24 hours.
24/7.
And I think it's also because people remember their nightmare stories from friends. Like my first experience with a psychiatrist was not good. So I will always remind my friends who ask me for advice that not everyone is like that. There are the good therapists, there are the good psychiatrists. So don't wait till the last minute. Try to be open and to help yourself. Yeah.
One final closing question before we go. What is one small step someone can take today if they're struggling or they're worried about somebody else?
Oh, like I said earlier, I think important is to be kind and to be compassionate. I think that's really the basis. If you feel this thing in you that you want to reach out to somebody, do so. Don't wait until it is too late. Yeah.
But also don't rush to fix everything.
Yeah.
I think when you are struggling, find the courage within you to seek help from someone you trust. Do not be so scared, and recognize the warning signs. Once it's there, don't wait too long because your bad coping mechanism is going to come in. And if you see someone struggling, just show that you are there. Drop them a text, invite them out to dinner, and don't judge.
And for all my bros and guys out there as well, check in on your friends. If he's another guy, just be like, hey dude, let's grab a beer or let's grab a coffee. It will make a world of difference.
Could mean a lot. I just want to thank Lisa for being so open and you let your emotions out there, and I really respect you for that. Thank you, because I think you help a lot of people here today also watching this right now. And Doctor, thank you so much also for being here and having so many great pointers to share with us, because this was almost like a situation where people may be hesitant to go and see a doctor, but seeing you here on a podcast, I think you're the first doctor that we've had on our podcast actually, which is fantastic. So we appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being with us today. And aside from the hotlines earlier, in the event that you do need help, please refer to the resources in the description below.
If you are not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, subscribe now, and make sure you follow us on all our Instagram pages as well as TikTok at itsclarity.co.
Yeah, and if you don't happen to be watching this but you're listening to us, thank you for that. Please subscribe Me Listen, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and we'll see you again next time. Bye! Oh my god, what is happening? Why?
Let it go.
Yeah. Cannot, I already did my makeup so nice. I can't fully cry today. I did not expect this to happen.